in that office, and you moved to something where I even had a robo receive me in the training center. So what I'm trying to say is there's a huge amount of change, and also about the age of people, the average age of the employee who are there. Why I'm asking is, yes, Yammer is one of the ways you got your message across. But how do you get a large number of people across the nation to stand up every day with the same amount of energy when they come to work? And as a leader, I want to ask that question because it is a huge challenge for leaders to operate across, so many people, right?
I don't want to sound like very pompous and all. But I think one of the things hugely underestimated is stamina. And I don't mean mental stamina is important. Leaders extraordinary demand on their physical stamina. And that sometimes, only divine helps you keep that stamina, right? My earlier executive assistant, just 5 days back, wrote to me. He remembered and we were texting. He said, this man used to come into work not so well, but he would go back very well. I think there is something about if you fall in love with your workplace, and that's very hard. Somebody's guffawing, but right, if you fall in love with your workplace, the energy kicks in. And long haul leadership is above everything, other than intellectuals, whatever this mental stamina is physical stamina, because you have to be there, taking those bullets and smiling like nothing is happening every day. And people, particularly in the kind of bank that I was part of in the early days, it's very impressionistic. Sometimes the leader gets more credit or more bad news than on either side. If you do something great, you're rah-rahed. If you muck up something, you're like bashed into the earth. Both ends is probably extremely unfair, but that's the truth. There is a certain degree of probably it's an Indian thing. I've not seen this overseas as much. The Indian thing is we over-celebrate heroism. Right? Because maybe we are short of heroes. I don't know. Maybe there's an over kind of deification. So the responsibility of the leader is to continuously earn that because it's a drug, right? The leader can get addicted to that. It's a drug. You can be hugely addicted to that followership, and that will itself keep you going because you don't want to do the wrong thing to lose that. So the consistency, and I keep going back in all of that you said, right? Is consistency, authenticity, and I would add stamina and intellectually believing in that and just being there. Because the external environment, that's my conscious belief, is the same for everybody. Whether it is Axis Bank, ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, Federal Bank, State Bank of India, pick any organization, the environment is the same. It's the ability for that team to say, I'm going to win this. I'm going to take it head on. I'm going to be there. I want to win. I will be there, come what may. I'm going to show up every day. I'm going to smile through it. I will take those hits. And that is stamina. And both intellectual and physical stamina play a massive role. And sometimes you need the divine blessing because beyond you can have issues.
Yeah, that brings me to this question of values. And as a leader, what role do you play? And what is the role of the board? And let me clarify why I asked that question. I'm sure you had to take decisions under pressure. Time pressure and business pressure, both, right? So you can't just postpone the decision and say, come back after 1 week. How do you make sure that and we all have to do that in our personal lives also. There are times where we have to make important decisions where we cannot postpone it even to the next day, right? Or in the middle of a conversation, you have to say it in a manner which is consistent. In your case, it's multiplied. Thousands of people are listening to that, the answer you gave or what decision you make or what call you make. How do you keep the values inside when you take that call or speak?
Here I'll add 1 point. There is a huge value to creating your senior leadership on the same wavelength as you. I was blessed. In my years, and particularly in Federal, actually I've had the good fortune of most of my teams, but particularly in my role in Federal, my senior most team, both my executive directors, the CFO, almost for 8 years were the same bunch of guys. And if you have that, you're almost never alone in that call, right? Sometimes you may get it wrong, but you can rely. But the message, I think, to what I would say is create a cohort of people whom you can genuinely have that freedom for an honest conversation, and there is less agenda and more conviction behind what is right you have to do. But creating that is your job, is the leader's job. Creating that capability is our job. If you fail there, we can go wrong. And sometimes these things, maybe it's the stars align, but it's so important to get a bunch of people, and you need to know when to scissor it off if it's not the right kind of people. It's the toughest call. In fact, my read on leadership is, and I keep repeating it, right? The environment is the same. It's invariably how you get the right cohort of people, whether it's board members or seniors, and genuinely jam with them when the issues are not burning, then the burning issues become easier to handle. It's the non-burning time, how do you engage with one another, how transparently, how much you are able to align. I will give you most proudly, this weekend, 9 months after I retired, 37 people came home and we spent 24 hours like we were some school kids singing away. Right? I'm not kidding. And they didn't have to come. And these are not some just youngsters. Three of my executive directors came. And it was because it transcended the formal official relationship, because then we have one another's back.
I had some of them send me the pictures of that event also.
Some of them are your friends also.
So I can see the happiness in those events, right? So, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Not easy, huh? It won't happen everywhere. So you need that culture.
So that brings me to, as we're coming to the close of this conversation, very important. How do you consciously set aside time and energy, a leadership energy and leadership space, if you can call it, in these matters when you also have to deal with regulator, when you also have to deal with clients, when you have to take important business decisions, and so many meetings to attend?
Yeah, these are 24/7 jobs. I don't think you have a choice. And then, everything is finally a trade-off. You do this, you trade off something else. But some choices we have to make, right? I'm sure all of us make choices for whatever we do. If this is your most important calling, particularly as leaders, and sometimes these are lonely calls, you have to make that call saying, I am investing in this, I'm trading off something else. I may do less of something else, but that's a call we have to take. I have this, I'm going to be unpopular with some of my younger colleagues. This work-life balance crap and all, I don't believe in. I'm not suggesting that you be irreverent. I think it's overdone. Nobody can be happy at work if they're unhappy at home, or the reverse. It is almost impossible. You have to figure out that balance and work hard. I mean, your life has got to work hard on whatever you want to do, right? So I would say this theory of how to balance it out, those mental trade-offs you have to make. But everything is finally a trade-off. It's this versus something else. You make that call.
That's right. No, the reason why I asked that question is not just about what you said, but also about how leaders are choosing to prioritize and say, right now for the next 2 years, I'm going to focus on performance, I'll get to culture and all these soft things later, right? So that's why I asked that question.
No, I think that, I know even in my current role, some may not like what I say. Right? If you give culture a pass, you've given your business a pass. Peter Drucker famously said, right? Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Culture, whatever that is, it could be the leadership sets the tone. They say, right? Tone from the top and echo from the bottom. You have to set the tone at the top. Then listen to the echo from the bottom. And I also say, be a voice, not an echo.
That's right.
We have to figure that, balance it out.
So,
Einstein said that.
so leadership exists beyond the OKRs or KPIs, right? Oh. Nice, good.
Some of them must be corporate leaders and cursing me, but anyway.
So,
The retired man is blabbering something.
No, I have this same experience that I find with many leaders that I work with. The moment of realization arrives when they have, unfortunately, a big event in the organization which wakes them up, or a big event in their personal life, which is a wake-up call for them. I've had people who will call me and say, I am having palpitations, my blood pressure is going through the roof, what should I do now? And those are moments of awakening that they have, or they have to check into the ICU. But sad to say that some of them change, some of them don't. But most of them, over a period of time, do get to this. But in the world of business, people are often said, he's a softie, that's why he changed. So that's why I asked that question. But I think from what you've achieved in business, it's clear that it's not this or that. It is this and that. And it has to be done at the same time and not in one sequence. This, right?
Nobody affords us that luxury.
That's right. So, yeah, I just wanted to hand it over a little bit to...
I think a lot of serious conversation. I want some levity in this now. I'm going to ask you some seriously unserious questions. Okay. I understand no work-life balance and all. What do you do to relax in your spare time apart from cricket? Don't tell me watching cricket. Apart from that, what do you do? Have I got you stumped there, Shyam?
No. I have been asked this question. For me, the relaxation is what I'm doing. I am not...
Oh, boring.
But making boring sexy is the role of a leader. That is what I genuinely preach it. I am not kidding. You have to find ways to make boring sexy. At least in a bank. That's what I am familiar with.
So outside the bank, at home.
Marry Maya.
Second question, Shyam, is that outside of cricket, again, because I know you're a cricket buff, who's a personality you admire and have tried to aspire to imbibe some of what that he or she did?
I think, Mali, probably you know it, right? I don't have any unique individual followership. I try to pick up or think about traits of people who are in the public life but have exhibited grit, consistency, and have played it long. Since you don't afford me the luxury of cricket, I will talk about Dravid, but say a Federer. Or more recently, if you've read my post on Nadal. These are people who have taken so many shots at them and for long periods of time and have demonstrated ability to stay the course. Or if you take the corporate life, more recently I've been greatly impressed with Satya Nadella. Right? I had the good fortune of meeting him almost 3 times one-to-one in smaller groups. And what he says there, then what you read his book, see his results, there is a story. And he, like us, just like a normal guy, right? Of course, he lucked out being where he is or reached where he is. But he's a beautiful example of culture, consistency, and doggedness. I don't think he's like any of us. He's average, above average, and clever, but he's not some great inventor or something. But there is some story. Look at the way he's turned around Microsoft, which is nothing, right? I mean, they're popular, but nothing about them was sexy. Today they have $3 trillion in market cap. Some story there. So yeah.
I don't think you have an answer for this question. What was the last movie you saw?
I don't remember.
Exactly.
But I'll tell you. I watch movies.
Movie is an illusion like Maya for him.
I watch movies in fast forward. So I watch a 3-hour movie in 15 minutes. So
I've got a pretty good view of what you are outside work, Shyam. I'm done. Audience questions. I'll just figure it out.
So before we just move, I want to pick up some of those questions, but I just wanted to capture some of the key things. First thing I heard from Shyam, and I think all of you would have heard this, and wanted to capture that, is authenticity. Be who you are, bring your best into work every day, and that's important from a point of view of leadership. The second thing I heard Shyam speak about is belief and the balance, the belief and balance, right? And with you have that belief and balance, you will be able to win over, with clarity, win over stakeholders, because it's not going to be all good days. And I think what I also heard from Shyam is the consistency with which you stay on the course over a period of time. And for that, you need a lot of stamina. Uninterrupted stamina, 24/7, as he said, the life of a leader. And within all of this also matters, what do you do when no one is watching? So I picked these up. Is there anything else that I left out, Shyam?
No, I'd only encourage everybody to watch that 7-minute clip by Angela Duckworth, right, on grit. It's quite revealing. You don't need to go further than that. But mindset and her study of people and how it's ultimately grit that matters in everything. Of course, there could be another school of thought which will argue entirely against it.
Right.
But I subscribe to that, and I thought I'll just share that.
I also encourage all of you to watch a very short talk by a person by the name Alex Thompson, who sailed the world solo. So he takes part in this one-day globe. Many like him take part. And he says that it's much fewer people do that than the people who have climbed Everest. And how they, for 90 days, are all by themselves on that boat. Pure, sheer grit. And it's all in the mind, is what he talks about. Sleeping for 20 minutes at a time, max, kind of thing. Right? So, yeah. So we'll get to the questions now. First one is, what does conscious leadership mean to you personally? And how has that understanding evolved over the course of your career? Shyam?
Nice question. It's a label you put after the event. Nobody starts out by saying, I want to be a conscious leader, right? I mean, you just try and practice. Sometimes it's like, when you do it, these roles over extended periods of time, you are constantly learning and reviewing and correcting. I don't believe at 30 I would have been able to answer this question. At the stage we are in, we can probably. So I think the message here is go back to core values and stay consistent to the core values. And come what may, stay. And that's why grit, and that's why I amplified that message. The things that people, particularly younger leaders or mid-career leaders, have to be obsessively focused on is, in the face of extreme pressure and temptation, can you stay the course on what you believe is right and what you think is long-term good? Very hard, but that's what to me defines conscious leadership.
Thank you, Shyam. And to Sriram, to answer your question the way I have tried to stay with this, some of people in the room know my journey, is to answer one question: why do I care? Why do I care about showing up at work every day? And that will, together with the values, answer the question of what is conscious leadership. And that question, answer will evolve over this period of time. You have another question? Or that's it? Yeah. Okay. Was there a defining moment or experience that prompted you to reflect deep?
Yeah, I think these, again, in the beauty of, when you look back, the answers are easier because now you can ascribe a motive to it. When I moved from one role to another role in the early 90s, I was doing sales and marketing, and one of my bosses called out and made me shift from sales marketing to do what was less glamorous at that stage, which is ops and collections and service. It was the least glamorous role. And I, of course, like a young management graduate who thought the world rose from my backside, I argued with him. But he made the case to me, I must credit him with the wisdom, says, many years later you'll thank me. And today I'd sit back and I've said it to him and I say it in many platforms. It's those sometimes forced situations which you take on and you make the best of it. And then it shapes your career very differently than how you charted it out to be. But, it turned out to be a blessing for me because at a relatively younger age, I got the opportunity to run a business because I had seen the business through multiple functional dimension as opposed to unidimensionally in one function. So I think to answer the question on defining moment, that's one. I'm sure there are a few more, but in the interest of time, I'll say it's the either forced situation or that fork, when you take that fork at the point where you believe that you're leaving a tried, tested path and moving to that untested path. And if you choose that and you're able to cross over there, maybe the rewards are better. So that's what I'd say.
Thank you. I think this one was also an interesting question. Dharma?
This must be from somebody I know in the bank because I have this crazy habit of using acronyms in all. So I used to, the dharma of leadership was not really the dharma as all of you understand. I had used dharma as in DHARMA and I spoke about digital, I spoke about hashtag, I spoke about authenticity and that's how the dharma came. But anyway, I'll just, could you elaborate on how this principle guided your leadership? I think we've spoken about it all evening is at least my dharma of leadership is sticking to the core principles, but having the flexibility to not be pig-headed about your view is right, but have the ability to... Sometimes when you're not clever, it's good to accept that you're not clever and take inputs from many others. And Mali calls it false humility, but it is me. I genuinely believe I don't know enough. And therefore it helps me pick up from many others. And I'm not shy of saying that. It's good to not be very good at what you know, what you do. It's good to pick up from many others. It's helped.
Yeah, I think also as a leader, if you think you know a lot, and if you have known enough, that means you won't grow anymore, right? That's you're dead.
I've always said, right? All learning, all knowledge has an expiry date. Everything has an expiry date. You have to reset and constantly, to borrow a very hackneyed phrase, learn, unlearn, and relearn. No choice.
Okay, while the questions still come up, I have one important question, and I particularly this is a question for people I ask in India normally to leaders. Most people know what to do, but don't get around to doing what to do, what they know that they have to do. What is this that blocks people? I also talk about this as a strategy execution gap in the context of organizations. Individually, it's about, I know what to do, but I can't do it. And I'm happy knowing it and not doing it. I'm talking about in the context of leadership.
Yeah, the only immediate off-the-cuff answer is self-belief. You think you can't and you believe that you will fail, the fear of failure. And second is because maybe you have not created a cohort of people who back you. So we have to find, and that's the toughest part. Very early I used to say, and I still believe it, somehow you need to create sparring partners at work who are almost non-judgmentally continuously backing you. Very hard. But to find that as a core anchor is a big story. And you can look out, and it's never a colleague at work. It may never be a colleague at work. It may be a person you started out with, but your paths have moved on. But you're able to challenge one another non-judgmentally. And you know they'll cover you back. It helps. Doing your tenure at Federal Bank, what was the made that reflected conscious leadership in action? And that's a session in itself, but we can talk about it.
One example
Yeah, I think...
which you can speak about.
Yeah. One of the things, these are very technical, but I'll share it anyway. One of my personal beliefs as a banker is the person who originates the credit should not be the one who underwrites that credit. That's been my core belief from very early. Maybe I was blessed in my first organization to learn that. But when you came to our bank in the 2010 kind of environment, there was a belief that only if the manager is empowered to underwrite that credit, you can grow. So there were diametrically different views. One belief was that you originate, you don't sign up the credit. The other was only if that is there, you can. So I don't know, a beginner's luck or whatever, I made that call and I got my board to support it, and I said, no way in our bank we will allow origination and underwriting by the same person. Very hard call, maybe brave because I was younger, but we stuck to it. And in the longer span of time, we probably are the only bank which never crossed 3% NPA, whatever happened. And I thought it helped the bank, right? Because we never veered from the way. There were banks that even more revered names went up to 6-7% NPA. We never crossed 3. So that...
I think there's a question for me, Gautami. Thank you for this question. I would say that the journey started, I distinctly remember, year of the tsunami, 2004. The first time, for some reason, I thought that I was missing something as a leader. So I took 3 days off while the family was in Chennai to be with myself at home, disconnecting from the world. So that was one of the first steps where it helped me understand what I cared most about, to speak to Shyam's point, what I was passionate about. But I left the corporate world only in 2017 or 2016. So there's a 12-year gap between this and that. And to me, what I tell people is, you have to walk the path which you dream about to know what is the path. You have to walk the path that you dreamt about to know what it is. Because you can make up a strategy like what you say in the organization, but unless you walk it, you will not know it. So it took me, I'm very slow, so it took me 12 years to figure out that I had to quit. But I really cared about something so hard, and was very passionate about it. And that moment of when I left was that I thought that the future of humanity rested on all of us discovering that, to use your word from the 2 days ago, weeks ago post, winning hand of Chandrasekhar, right? So it is to discover what is extraordinary in you and bring it to the world. I feel that that is the only way we can save ourselves from ourselves. Otherwise, we will live in insecurity all along. So I thought I had to leave to do this and have a multiplier effect rather than just stay in the organization and continue to do that. What advice would you give to young professionals who aspire to lead consciously but feel stuck in the rat race? Discover who you are and find out why you show up at work every day. You can trust me, you don't have to leave your job to find out why you show up at work every day. Every person thinks, oh, I have to go to a new country, I have to go to a new... No. Stay in the same job, find that connection, and from there you will keep growing and get better and better and better. I think that's all, like what Shyam spoke about. I can also speak to you and say, for 12 years, I have not fallen sick. I don't have cough, cold, or fever. I have no chronic condition. I feel it's something to do with doing things which you care about. It doesn't matter, like Shyam said, I work 7 days a week also myself. And I work multiple time zones because I serve clients from all over. I don't fall sick. My wife is tired looking at me. So, but the point is that I don't, because you care about something and you're doing what you're naturally good at. Right? So, how do you define effective leadership today, Shyam?
See, this is the unfortunate truth is people measure us by results. People measure us by stock price and whatever, right? And you cannot run away from that. But I think the measure of success has to be beyond that. That may be necessary but not sufficient condition is what I call the NPS score of employees, of your cohort of co-workers. Tough, but if your net promoter score amongst your people whom you work with, care, is high and moving in the right direction, then I think you can consider that as a good leadership. Are we done?
Just wanted to thank all of you for coming here. But I really feel that, Shyam, thanks so much for this open conversation. It's been a long time since we had this quality time of chatting like this openly. Every time we are in a rush. But, really happy that we could have this conversation about stories from our life. And thank you all for asking those, I would say, questions which, provoked us to dig deep a little bit, right? So thank you all once again, and just hand you over to Mali again.